Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Today, we're taking a look at a massive stack of research you sent us. And our mission is basically to decode how, well, a completely misunderstood internet quirk somehow became a legitimate neuroscientific breakthrough.
Yeah, it's quite the journey. I mean, going from weird YouTube videos to actual clinical data.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this. We are talking about ASMR. And if you don't know, that's like this static-like tingle that starts at the scalp and runs down the spine.
Exactly. And the fascinating thing is that it's essentially a neurological lottery. Only about, 10 to 20% of the population actually experiences it.
Which means the vast majority of you listening might have absolutely no idea what that physical sensation feels like.
Exactly. But for those who do win that lottery, it is a profoundly intense experience.
And, the history is just wild.
Yeah.
Because for decades, people were triggering this entirely by accident, right?
Oh, yeah. Completely by accident. I mean, Virginia Woolf actually describes the exact sensation in her 1925 novel, Mrs. Dalloway.
Oh, wow. I didn't know it went back that far.
Yeah. And then, you have millions of people tuning into Bob Ross's painting show in the 80s and 90s.
Right, but they weren't watching to learn how to paint trees.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
They were watching for the deeply relaxing sounds of his brushstrokes. But nobody had a name for it.
Until, what was it, a 2007 forum post?
Right. A username, a book, whatever, finally posted about it and kind of united this nameless community online.
But then they ran into a pretty severe naming crisis early on.
They really did. Early on, people were calling it an attention-induced head orgasm.
Yikes. Which, I mean, you can imagine how quickly that stigmatized the whole thing.
Exactly. It framed a purely neurological variance as like some sort of weird internet fetish.
Right. Which brings us to a vital turning point in 2010.
Yeah, so a cybersecurity professional named Jennifer Allen basically engineered this very clinical-sounding term, autonomous sensory meridian response.
It was essentially a masterful PR rebrand. I mean, by stripping away all that taboo, she made this incredibly intimate sensory experience palpable for, serious medical research.
It was brilliant. It gave the medical and academic communities the objective vocabulary they really needed to study the phenomenon without prejudice.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting, because you'd think ASMR is just baseline relaxation, right? Like taking a deep breath.
You would think so, but it actually induces a physiological paradox that researchers call relaxed arousal.
Wait, relaxed arousal, what does that even mean?
So when you meditate, your whole system usually powers down, right? But with ASMR, your heart rate drops significantly by an average of like 3.41 beats per minute.
Okay, so that's the relaxed part.
Right. But at the exact same time, your skin conductance spikes by about 0.30 microsiemens.
Wait, really? So your sweat glands are activating?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just enough to make your skin conduct electricity slightly better, almost like a tiny charged battery.
That is wild.
And your brain just floods with dopamine and oxytocin. So you are deeply calm, but your nervous system remains electrically engaged.
Okay, but it also maps onto another condition, right? Misophonia.
Yes, which is the severe hatred of human-generated sounds like chewing or heavy breathing.
So polar opposites, euphoria versus absolute rage.
Exactly. But they share the exact same acoustic triggers. And astonishingly, 36 to 49% of misophonia sufferers also experience ASMR.
Wait, hang on. I struggle to buy that. If the acoustic triggers are identical, why doesn't, Bob Ross make misophonia sufferers fly into a rage?
Well, it comes down to your amygdala, the brain's emotional processing center. Your autonomic nervous system is essentially acting like a bouncer at a club.
Checking the ID of every incoming sound.
Exactly, and cross-referencing it with past experiences. If the brain perceives the whisper as an intimate comfort, the bouncer lets it in, giving it the VIP dopamine treatment.
Ah, but if it perceives someone chewing as, an invasion of personal space...
It throws that sound out into the fight-or-flight alley and triggers instant anger.
Okay, so when the sound gets the VIP treatment, you get that incredible dopamine flood. But there has to be a dark side to that rush, right?
Right. Oh, for sure. Because ASMR chemically mirrors a drug response in the brain's reward centers. Chronic consumption physically builds tolerance.
Research call it tingle immunity, right?
Precisely. Your brain gets so used to the flood of feel-good chemicals that you basically have to practice absolute abstinence for weeks to reset your system.
Wow. So what does this all mean? If it's this chemically powerful, can we actually prescribe this stuff to people?
We actually already are. ASMR is actively being deployed right now in ICUs and palliative care as an algorithmic digital therapeutic.
In an ICU? How does that even work?
Well, they use software hooked up to patient biosensors. When a patient's heart monitor shows they're getting stressed, the system automatically plays ASMR audio to calm them down.
And does it actually help?
Oh, it's yielding a staggering 35% reduction in unmanaged pain scores.
Wow.
Yeah. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it completely bypassed all that early internet controversy to become a highly effective zero-chemical pain intervention.
That's just incredible. To see this journey from a hushed, niche subculture to a legitimate, life-enhancing medical tool. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive to explore these sources with us.
It was a pleasure. And I'll leave you with one final thought to explore on your own.
Lay it on us.
As we increasingly rely on these perfectly algorithmic digital surrogates on our screens to soothe our anxiety and regulate our nervous systems, could interventions like ASMR eventually rewire our evolutionary need for actual physical human touch? Are we replacing the physical warmth of a hand with the digital fizz of champagne bubbles?
Definitely something for you to think about the next time you put your headphones on.